We're delighted to be here with Carlos Domingo from DO at the SEP conference. It's our first day, and actually we were together on a panel this morning. So we had a wonderful chat there, and he was kind enough to give us some time to actually have a one-on-one. Carlos, welcome. Good to see
Tariq.
you.
How are
Good
you?
to see you.
Thanks for the invite.
Tell us about your story in life. Where did you start, and where did you come from?
I see. I'm originally from Barcelona. I left Spain when I was 21 years old.
Okay.
I lived half of my life outside Spain. I went to study to Japan, to Tokyo.
Right.
I studied in Tokyo Institute of Technology, which is like the MIT there. I did my master, PhD, postdoc, and then this is when the first wave of internet arrived. So I joined a startup. We did an IPO in Nasdaq Japan. Went to the US, bought 3 companies there, and basically lived in the US for 5 years, managing these companies through the downturn of the first internet bubble. And then in 2006, I was called by Telefónica, which is one of the largest telcos in the world and the largest one in Spain, to head all their digital efforts back in Spain. So I moved back to Spain, Barcelona, to my hometown, set up a lab for doing digital service and innovation for Telefónica, and started with 40 people, and over 8-year period grew it to 1,500 people in 5 different countries.
Okay.
Had a very successful career there. We did a lot of things, but eventually, wanted to move out of Spain again. So I came here for the Middle East, and I've been here in Dubai for 3 years, working now for DO, which is the local telecommunications company, also running in new business and innovation for them.
Sounds like a fun life. Where did you have the greatest amount of fun in all of these various things that you did? Which one area was closest to your heart?
I think that the best probably time in my career was when I moved from Japan to the US, and myself and another Japanese, we acquired 3 companies, and suddenly I was thrown into being the CEO of one company. I was 30 years old. I had no management experience. I was fortunate the company paid me an executive MBA in Stanford Business School, but I basically had to run a company, entire company end to end, I had no idea how to do it. So it was a challenge. At the same time, was probably the years of my career where I learned the most, because I had to manage HR, finance.
Yeah.
Back then, software was not like today, so it was distributed physically. So we had a warehouse, we had to print CDs, put the boxes on the Apple Store. So it was a logistics process as well. So it was a lot of fun.
Is that the kind of thing you would recommend to young people today, is to jump in the deep end and build from there?
I think there's 2 different things. If you work for a large company, typically you get placed into one particular job, and you can go very, very deep on that job, but you will only learn that job, and you don't get the learnings and the visibility of other things. If you go to a small company, by definition, you have to end up doing a lot of different things. So I think when you're young, it's probably a more rewarding experience to be in a smaller company, because you get to do a lot of things and learn a lot of things, and then you can decide what you want to do when you grow up. And also, there is more financial risk on a smaller company, which is something is easier to do when you're young. Now I'm 45, 3 kids, mortgage, and so it's more complicated. So I will advise them to actually take that career path, and if you like it, you can stay in small companies, technology startups, or you can always move to large corporations down the road. So.
Right. What do you do at DO now?
So I manage the 2 sides of the business. One is the digital transformation part of how to digitalize the core business of the company, like move people to digital channels, move the customer support to digital, e-commerce, etc. And the other one is the new business, how we diversify from the core connectivity business of a telco. How do we, move into digital services with partnerships like Angami that we discussed this morning, move into things like smart cities that we won the Dubai project for smart cities, the Smart Dubai project, etc. So these are the 2 sides of my job.
This new deal with Virgin and Virgin Mobile, is there something that you're involved with?
I was involved at the beginning in the definition of the project. Now once this got approved, it's run as a separate project within DO, as a separate unit.
So how do you see it? Because isn't it going to start overlapping with some of the stuff that DO provides, and you've got these 2 brands. One is a brand and digital, and the other is digital. So how does that connect?
Well, so of course there's going to be a little bit of cannibalization, because this is a duopoly where there are only 2 players. So any new player will eat from both. Because of the segmentation we've done between what DO does, what Virgin does, I expect that the cannibalization will come more from the Etisalat side, and a lot of companies have 2 brands to attract different markets and different audiences. So I don't think that this will be a problem. It's actually the opposite. 1 + 1 will be 3, not 2.
So we spoke about exponential change this morning. Is this whole philosophy of creating MVNOs and this kind of digital platforms the way forward for a lot of the telcos in the world today?
So a lot of the telcos, starting when I was in Telefonica, we created an MVNO called GiveGaf in the UK. Then we acquired a company called 20, which we turned into an MVNO in Spain. For a lot of the telcos, this is a way for being able to experiment without being constrained by the size of the original mothership. As you mentioned this morning, telcos are slow, and they're always going to be slower than smaller companies just because of the size they have. So these second brands, MVNOs, whatever you want to call it, this is a way for not just telcos, but banks are doing the same thing, for them to experiment in a smaller scale. They can try more disruptive things, they can innovate and iterate faster, and if things work well, they should incorporate it into the main operation.
3 or 4 years ago, a lot of new things are happening because of the exponential change in companies like GE and Visa and so on. They actually created independent companies, and literally not even as an extension, and nothing to do with GE, and nothing to do with MasterCard. So it attracted a different quality of people. It had attracted the young geeks from Stanford and Michigan and Boston and so on, because they did it that way. But there was this sort of like a Chinese wall there, because you're not really working. Let these guys do the best they can, and then even if they have to attack the mother company, let them, because if they don't do it, somebody else will do it anyway. Is that a model that telcos are brave enough to cope with and engage and have? Is really to even get attacked by your own babies?
So this is my favorite topic because I think that the main issue for any industry, not just telcos, to decide how to deal with disruption is that there is two different problems. One is the core business under disruption, and you have to deal with it. But there is the same disruption also creates new opportunities for you to go and do it.
Indeed,
And these are two different problems. And a lot of the companies, they try to deal with both problems under the same umbrella, and the same organization, and this is a mistake in my opinion. Precisely because they are different problems, they need to deal with them differently. So I'm a big believer that the core business disruption needs to be dealt by the core business, but the opportunity of disrupt yourself or creating new business needs to be done separately. And of course, you need to figure out what are the points of interaction between the two units. But if you put everything under one umbrella, it's a recipe for failure, and it's seen in many, many industries, not just telcos.
And
ING is doing the right thing. And then GE, they're trying to figure out how is the relationship of GE Digital versus the other core GE. What is the operating model, but putting it together is not going to work.
I mean, MasterCard was investing into blockchain and Bitcoin 4 years ago, and everybody in the board thought they were nuts. And so they actually had to ring fence it and separate it so that it doesn't infect the mother company in any way. So even if it gets messed up, fine. We tried, and this is our little sandbox. So what kind of sandboxes can this region develop?
I think that the risk of infection is bigger for the small than for the big. Because by the nature of small being early stage, etc., the power of the legacy business, if you want, the core legacy business, of this, not letting the small grow is much bigger. So I think the one you need to protect is the small, not the big. So because otherwise the small always remains small, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of not being able to grow, and then the guys from the legacy business say, you see, you don't grow, etc., and then they end up shutting down the new business area, which is what happens in a lot of people. So my recommendation is for the top management, CEO, board, whatever, if you really believe that you need to create new business, that you need to try to make something out of the disruption yourself, then you need to protect the small one, not the big one, because the small one is the more fragile of the equation.
A lot of the over-the-top services that are there, which are taking a large chunk of revenues, which, as we were discussing in the morning, my question is that I think the base connectivity, the base level of a telco will always be there. There are 3 billion new people coming on board, so the future of telcos is really, really bright. So I think that is the block that's safe and done. But isn't there a great opportunity for new businesses coming in and might take away your core revenues? SMS revenues disappear because of WhatsApp. A Do TV revenue could disappear because of, I don't know, Netflix or something like that. So that kind of contestable digital products coming in, and voice could be next.
Voice is actually being disrupted now.
Indeed.
Especially in countries where it's allowed.
So how, other than being protected by regulation, what are the other smart things regional telcos can do?
I think that what you need to admit is that the cannibalization that is happening more in other regions than here because of the regulation, but on voice and SMS and messaging is because of a change of behavior of people, right? People call less frequently because they have other ways of communicate, they want richer messaging systems, and this is why the move into WhatsApp is not only about making it cheaper or saving money. Therefore, because this is a change of consumer behavior, you can't fight it. It will come.
Yeah.
So what telcos that have survived this transition have done is to transition the voice revenue into the data revenue, because by using less voice, you're using more data. So this rebalancing of the pricing between voice and data is what will maintain the entire pile of revenues, but it will be data revenue, like connectivity revenue. Once it's connectivity revenue, it's more protected because today there is no real disruptive technology that will replace the telco connectivity, right? You need a license, you need a spectrum, you need a lot of capex investment to build networks, you need a license, etc. So therefore, the connectivity revenue is more protected. The telcos that will suffer are the ones that don't manage the transition from voice to data. And when everything becomes data, then everything becomes a service on top of data, right? And this could be your service, could be a third-party service, but the core revenue is somehow protected.
And so going forward, how do you see the new revenue mix evolving for this region's telecoms companies?
I think as I said, I believe voice messaging is negligent already, so that has already disappeared. Voice is going to come down. It will come down more if they open up, VoIP and things like that. But even if that doesn't get open, it still will come down just because of a pure, human behavioral change of how people communicate. So unless telcos react and do the price rebalancing, then the entire market will come down in size, which is what has happened in more mature markets like in Europe.
One of my final questions, I mentioned the phrase ROI, which most people would imagine as return on investment, but in a telco environment, I talk about it as return on involvement, or being part of that whole process on return on interaction, perhaps.
Correct.
Is this really the way we should now be looking at our new KPIs? Because the money part is the dynamic is changing.
So I think you're absolutely right. So if this is a scenario that everything becomes connectivity, whether same pile or smaller, but everything becomes connectivity happens, then you're in a situation when you have a little bit of your utility or a commodity provider, because connectivity is very difficult to differentiate. Therefore, how you maintain the customer engagement of your connectivity versus the competition connectivity is very critical, and this return on interaction of how many people actually use my connectivity because it has something differential is where it becomes very important. And this is where companies like music streaming companies like Angami or other music or services can play a role, not because they will add revenue to my mix, because the revenue is tiny compared to my revenue, but because they will increase the return of interaction of people with my connectivity and with my telco versus the competition. So it will become very important, basically as a way to differentiate what otherwise is a commodity product.
This environment, the STEP environment we're in, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, startups, young companies. What is it that Do as a company is doing for this startup ecosystem?
I think we're trying to be relevant to the ones that also can be relevant to us. So as you know, we've invested in Angami and we have a partnership with them very strong. We are part of the Buy Future accelerators and we brought some startups there. I think
you're actually investing in some of those startups?
We've invested in Angami.
Angami, yes, but I was saying DFAs.
So DFA, as you know, the model is we pay for the expenses of them being there. We have no direct investment into the companies, but this is something that we're always evaluating when the right opportunity comes. As I mentioned this morning, I think my advice is for both the telcos and the startups is that you need to find what is the right time to engage, because if it's too early, it's not good for either one. So you need to pick companies that are still in the startup phase, but they have somehow, start proving their model and their product, etc., and they're ready for scale, which is what a telco can bring to the table. So these are the kind of sweet spots that we need to be looking at.
Any final comment, any final advice for people when we look at the telco space and grow your brand and grow your popularity?
Yeah, as I said, you need to understand how to engage with telcos and what is the right time to do it, because telcos at the end of the day, they're very large companies, they are very complex, and for a small company, this could really kill them. So my advice is find what's the right time to do it, and also find who is the right champion internally that can help you navigate the complexity of a large company.
The world is going through this whole revolution of automation, artificial intelligence, cognitive computing. So over the next 5 to 10 years, perhaps we will lose 30, 40, 50% of the staff in a lot of your routine jobs. Has the company started looking at that in terms of long-term restructuring, replacement, retraining and development? Because this is imminent, it's going to happen. So how do we rethink and restructure that for the people working there?
So that's a very interesting question, because we have a lot of this debate a lot. I'm personally a person that I'm very positive towards technology. Sure. In the history of humankind, there hasn't been any technology that has, as a net effect, created less jobs. Of course, some jobs disappear, but other jobs appear. And because the jobs don't disappear overnight, they disappear over a period of time. Also, younger people are less incentivized to take the jobs that they know they're going to disappear. I don't know if you're probably my age, more or less, so you remember. I remember when I was very young, they used to have some elevators that they will have a guy that will actually click on the floor. You needed to go and will stop, because you needed to know when to click to stop the elevator. Otherwise, it was too harsh, right? This job disappeared because elevators became better, and there was no need for anyone to do that. So, and this, nothing happened, right? Because obviously, young people didn't want to be the elevator guy anymore, because they knew it was a job that was going to die, and some people got recycled to do other things, other new jobs got created. So I'm expecting that all these things, driverless cars, artificial intelligence, of course they will make some professions irrelevant in the future. It will disappear over time, not radically, but other things will come, and as a net effect, society will be better and there will be more employment.
I think the humans are versatile as a species. My only thing is, it's the rate of change has never been as fast as this. We've always adapted, and we've always found a way, and I believe we still will. I'm a great believer, I'm a dreamer. So I think all of that will work. My only thing is the rate of change, because of Moore's law and Metcalfe's law and everything that's going on. The rate of change is the only difference from the past. So our awareness level has to be at that level to be able to cope with that level. That's the only change.
There's another solution, which is we go back to the four days a week work instead of 5 days.
That's fine.
Which is what happened, 150 years ago, when there was not enough job for everyone. So people work only 4 days and
back to basics. That's spoken like a true Spaniard.
That way you reduce 20% of the job population instantly, and also because people will have 3 days to spend money, then you will also put money back into the society in a different way, right? So
absolutely.
That's the other way to solve the problem.
Indeed, we live in a world of abundance, and we'll make good things happen. Carlos, well pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.